The hardest part about giving advice is the person listening to the advice that you're giving them. You thought about starting this business, now you have it. Now you know what to do next. If you're consistent in anything, you will get the result that you're looking for. You're going from an employee to an entrepreneur. You're going from an employee that has the work already set for you, that has a schedule already set for you, to an employer creating your own schedule. This requires a lot of dedication, a lot of forward thinking, a lot of vision. Welcome to Osage Financial. In today's episode, we'll be discussing advisory. In episode 1, we discussed the 3 types of services that we offer: advisory, tax, and fractional accounting. In episode 2, we discussed fractional accounting. If you're a student, we hope you find the information in this episode valuable to you. If you're a company looking for advisory, tax, or private accounting services, click the link below and we'll be in touch with you as soon as possible. Last night, as I was scrolling through my phone, planning for the week and planning for the rest of January, I saw a message from one of our clients. The client happens to be a client that owns 2 of the businesses that we service on the accounting side. He sent me a message that I thought was probably the funniest thing I've seen all of 2026. It started with, "What would you do if you're a crackhead that ran out of crack?" I just laughed. By the way, don't do drugs. Unless if you do drugs, just be safe. Everyone has a choice. I'm for don't do drugs, right? Anyways, so it says, "What would you do if you ran out of crack?" Then I looked, what does this mean? I scrolled through and it said, well, you go get some more crack. And it said, do not ever get outworked by a crackhead. I just thought this was the funniest thing. It reminded me of the Chappelle Show. And Dave Chappelle has a character called Tyrone, and Tyrone is a crackhead who does everything he can to get to that crack. It's funny because it reminded me that when someone wants to absolutely execute on a desired path, they will absolutely find a way. In this example, in this message that our client sent me, it was funny because it was a crackhead. But the deeper meaning in the message was that in everything that he does in his business, he finds a way to make sure that he delivers. 1, in getting the technicians that he needs to do the jobs, and 2, in getting the clients that he needs so that they can perform the job, and then 3, in delivering to the client. So what would you do? Now, if you are a client that needs advisory, you may or may not realize that you're in a point where you need advisory in your business. I've learned this as I've ran Osage Financial. That's why we created the division of advisory. We realized that business owners spend a lot of their time working in the business and sometimes not working on the business until it's tax season, when they realize that they have to pay a lot in taxes, or until they reach a breaking point where they cannot make a decision that doesn't end up in a critical mistake or in a critical error in the direction of their business. So for us, we absolutely value advisory. We are the ear, or we are the voice in your ear that's providing you information from our knowledge of accounting about the decisions that you're making as you go day to day through your business. We had a client last week file an LLC with us. We advised that client on the steps of the LLC, what would be needed. After the LLC, what's the next step, and how do we get them to open a bank account? The next step for the client, we advise them that if you are going to be in this line of work, you haven't done this as a business before, you're going from an employee to an employer, you're going from an employee to an entrepreneur, you're going from an employee that has the work already set for you, that has a schedule already set for you, to an employer creating your own schedule. This requires a lot of dedication, a lot of forward thinking, a lot of vision. We asked him, are you ready for it? There were things that he had not thought about. But because we advised him, because of the advisory, we were able to bring him things to his attention that will be critical to his business and to his business operations. Another thing that I told him was, in everything that you do, there is something called the power of consistency. Like the story I mentioned earlier with the crackhead. If a crackhead ran out of crack, he will do everything possible to find that crack. He will borrow money, steal, do everything. I'm not advising to do that. However, I'm saying that they will be creative in finding ways to get what they need done. If you are a business owner and you need to get clients, just as you can be creative in one way, you can be creative in another way. Following the law, following the rules, you can be creative in how you find your clients, how you plan for your business, and how you execute in your business. And in those steps that you take, there's one critical thing, that is the power of consistency. Everything that you do, whether you're an accountant, whether you run an HVAC business, a pest control business, the more and the repeatedly you do a certain task, the higher your skill and efficiency becomes. I advised this client, you have been doing this line of work for a long time, since you became an adult, since you started working. Now you're moving to an entrepreneur. Now you're moving to a point where the jobs are not given to you, you're getting the jobs. The skills are given to you, you have the skills. You're just applying your skills in a different way. You have the consistency in your skills. You have the consistency in the knowledge of what you do. Just as you have that consistency, that knowledge, you need to now have the consistency in the knowledge of how do I run a business? How do I set my schedule? How do I get my clients? How do I deliver my clients? Even after delivery, how do we make sure that the clients are satisfied? Because those clients will refer to you your next set of clients. He asked me, Kuda, what is consistency anyways? I wake up every day, I do the same thing every day, I go to work, I take care of my wife and kids. I'm consistent in that. Then I said, yes, you're consistent in that. That's why you're happy, right? With your wife and kids and your job. You're also consistent in wanting to pursue your dream. That's why you contacted me and we started this business for you. He said, yes. Then I said, let me tell you a story. When I finished college, my wife and I decided we wanted to buy a house. We're barely making entry-level wages. Her as a teacher, me as an entry-level accountant. We found the exact house that we wanted after looking at 20, 30 houses. The only issue was we did not have enough for a down payment for that house. I told my wife, there's nothing that we cannot do. When we went to college, we finished college in 4 years. When we decided to do something, we did it absolutely. In a month and a half, we were able to get the down payment for the house and we closed on that house. And he looked at me and said, man, I haven't even bought my house yet. I just told him, you haven't thought about buying your house yet. You thought about starting this business. Now you have it. Now you know what to do next. If you're consistent in anything, you will get the result that you're looking for. So he asked me, why would I take advice when you don't do the line of work that I do? Then I told him, you don't have to take advice. A lot of people decide not to take advice. When they don't take advice, there are results from those actions. I take advice from people that are preachers. I take advice from people that are students. I take advice from people that are farmers. I take advice from everyone, as long as that advice is applicable to what it is that I'm doing. You are starting a business. I'm giving you advice from the business standpoint. And I'm taking all the experience that I have, that my team has at Osage Financial, applying that knowledge and experience, because the things that you will go through in your business, we've either gone through ourselves or we have seen other businesses go through. So with us giving you that advice, we're actually leveraging a lot of knowledge to scale you up a lot quicker. You can either learn from your own mistakes, or you can learn from the mistakes of others and rapidly improve from where you started to where you're going to go, just because of the knowledge you have from the experience of others, from the advice that you'll get from us. The hardest part about giving advice is the person listening to the advice that you're giving them. If you tell someone, if you touch this pot, you will get burned, they could either listen to you or they cannot listen to you. If they touch it and they get burnt, they learn that way, or maybe not. or they can just take your advice and know that you cannot touch this. If it's hot, you will get burnt. Advice is one of those nuanced, critical items in any business. The people that are entrepreneurs, the people that start a business, are highly motivated, driven people with high self-belief. Because these individuals have high self-belief, there's very few things that can get in their way of the path and the vision that they see. However, sometimes they may not understand the critical importance of a person giving them advice in their ear for the decisions that they're making. So for us, when we face an entrepreneur and when we give the entrepreneur advice and information, it's very important that it's a forward-thinking advice. We can understand the path that that person is taking, and we can advise on the actions that they need to make going through that path. And then importantly, because the hardest part of giving advice is the person receiving the advice, we give the person options and they make a decision. When we give options, we give 3 options. Here are the options that you have available to you in making a decision that you need to make. And then from those options, they can make their own decision. That gives that entrepreneur or that person receiving the advice choice. Because an entrepreneur, they make decisions all day. The advice that they're given, they need to make a decision on that advice. If you give them one option, they could decide that is not the option that they want. If you give them 3 options, they could decide between those 3 options and make a selection or not. However, if they have 3 options, they can make a decision and forward move with the decision that you have given them or with the options that you have given them. So advisory for us here at Osage Financial is a very important, critical part of our business. We take the knowledge of being accountants and apply it to businesses or to individuals walking through the path of entrepreneurship. It's very important that if you're a student and you're speaking to your professor, you listen to what they have to say. They're there for a reason. They chose to become a professor. So they have the knowledge that they need to have to be in the position that they have. So the advice that they're giving you is very important. If you're an accountant looking at this information or spending time just watching different videos about what other accountants do or what other consulting firms do or what other accounting companies do, advisory is a critical part of the business. You may not necessarily have advisory as a line item on your business. However, in everything that you do, you're giving advice. If you're preparing financial statements and you have to report the financial statements, the numbers that you're presenting infer a certain decision-making capability to the owners or to the responsible managers of that business. Because you know the numbers of the business, you can then give advice on the actions that may need to be taken. For example, if you're looking at a profit and loss, and on that profit and loss, the targeted labor margin is 25%, and you see that it's 28%. That variance there, you can give advice or give information and knowledge to the decision makers on why that variance exists. That is advisory, right? It's not necessarily advisory in the sense that it's a broad scope of advisory. However, it's advisory in the sense that the actions that you're doing in your regular accounting practice can infer decision-making ability to the owners of the business. So we love what we do at Osage Financial, especially the advisory part. It's very important that in everything that we do, we give advice, clarity, and vision to the owners, to the decision makers, and to the people that come through our doors or that pick up the phone and call us and request our services. Now, one of the most critical thing about anything that we do and anything that we recommend and advise to people that get in contact with us for any types of our services is that the power of consistency is a very real, true, and capable power in anything that we do. If you start something today and you stop it tomorrow, the chances of success are done tomorrow. If you start something today and you continue to work and improve upon it, you may go up, down, but the forward trajectory is up. You will succeed over the course of time. I remember when I was a kid and my pet dog died. My grandpa told me, "You're hurting today, you'll be hurting tomorrow, but over time you will feel a lot better." That doesn't mean you forgot your dog. It just means time heals all wounds. In business, the theory and the concept is the same. Your skills, your knowledge compounds. You may start here, but over time, that knowledge will compound. Thank you for watching episode 3 of Osage Financial. We hope you found the information in this episode valuable to you. We hope you found the advice and the stories interesting and providing any sort of value to you. And we'll see you in the next episode.